Let's give a warm welcome to our service learning team and Marisa.
What were your thoughts as being through this event?
What are my thoughts at being at this event? I think it's really important for me to be here and to share my story of my immigrant parents and how they came here, and when they came here, and why they came here. So I'll start the story now. Is that okay? Okay. So I came here when I was 4 years old. My parents came here to find, to have a better life, to have jobs, and to give me an education. My parents came here, they settled in a little area called Pacific Beach, down by the beach. And I don't know why they picked that area. I think what happened is my dad's older sister, that's where she ended up having a job, and that's where we all kind of lived in. And so my dad was a cook, and my mom was a maid. Now my dad's a janitor, my mom's still a maid. And through that, through their hardship, I learned hard work and perseverance and not giving up. Both of my parents have a 4th grade education. And when they came here, they have a 4th grade education, did not know any English. Imagine coming to a country, you don't know how to fill out an application. They needed to buy a house or rent a house. They didn't even know how to read any English, but my aunt did, so that's how they were able to rent a house. But imagine anything, anywhere you go, you know, or if you were to be dropped off in a different country and you don't know the language, how hard is it to survive? Not just for them, but they had 3 girls to raise and to feed. And so it was really hard for them, but they never gave up. And then in 1986, I don't know if you guys remember the president, you weren't born then, but Ronald Reagan passed an amnesty law in 1986 where I could apply for my citizenship, and so could my parents, and so could my sister. So we all applied as a family, and with that came a lot of assurance and safety, because a lot of times we couldn't even go to the grocery store or go do a laundry because there was a lot of the immigration trucks would be there picking up people that didn't have papers, and we didn't have papers. So it was really hard to go to school, to concentrate on school, to go to the grocery store, anything you wanted to do, there was always that worry. So once we were able to apply for citizenship, we had a lot of more assurance and have confidence, and that my parents could apply for different jobs. And my dad did apply for a job for UCSD. He works at UCSD as a janitor, has a very good job. My mom is still a maid. So when you hear of stories in the news about families that are from immigrant background, that's my immigrant background. I can relate to that because I lived it and I'm still living it. And so that's a little bit about my story. I think immigration, we need it. We need what they call, a lot of people are using the word comprehensive, and that means everything. That means it means being able to apply for immigration at different ages, to let everybody in, not just a certain section of people. Let everybody apply, and then also the process. Sometimes I've heard that it takes 10 years to get your citizenship, where we had to wait a couple years because it was under an amnesty. So the process is really hard. And then also they call it a pathway to citizenship, to actually have a correct pathway process that you can apply for citizenship, and you don't have to wait 10, 15 years, because a lot of people are waiting that long for their citizenship. So we support comprehensive immigration reform.
What was your childhood like, and how did you cross?
I don't remember, but I'm told that my aunt crossed the border with me, and she said that I was her daughter. And back then, they didn't really ask you for papers. They would just say, okay, what's your citizenship? And they would say U.S., and they would cross. Where now you try to do that, and you have to produce some type of paperwork. I grew up in Pacific Beach, and 90% of people in Pacific Beach are Caucasian. And then my family and my other family were the only ones really that were a different color. So I would go to school, to elementary school, and everybody would speak English. And then I would go back home, and everybody would speak Spanish. So when I was at school, they said you can't, in elementary school, they told us you are not allowed to speak Spanish here. Or now, they actually encourage you to be 2 languages, right? Don't they encourage you to be 2 languages? Because we realize what a gift it is, and when you go, find a job, they always ask you, how many languages do you speak? But when I was growing up, they said you are not allowed to speak Spanish in the classroom. So there was a lot of, I was torn a little bit because I wanted to hold on to that language, but I was in school, you can't use it, and then at home, my parents we want you to keep that language. So there was a lot of tugging and pulling growing up. He said, how do I feel now? And I feel like the luckiest person in the world. I feel I've been blessed with great parents that showed me a good work ethic and how important education is. I've been blessed with a good education here, right down the street here at San Diego State. And I've been blessed with having one of the best jobs you could ever have. And so I think between all of that, there's so much sacrifices that you had to give up. So many things that you had to do. And there was a lot of times where I did honestly want to give up because there's times when it's really hard. There's stuff going on in your family. There's stuff going on with your friends. It's just a lot of hard work. But I just saw my parents, how much they had to give up to come here. When they came here, they weren't allowed, they couldn't call their parents. My parents couldn't call their parents. My mom didn't see her mother for 14 years because we couldn't go back and forth. We didn't have papers. And so imagine if you had to leave at a young age and you couldn't communicate with your parents. They could do phone calls, but phone calls were so expensive. Now you have the internet, now you have your texting, but back then they didn't have that. So I looked at their sacrifices and thought to myself, if they could sacrifice that, being away from their parents, not having their friends, being in this, to them it was a foreign land, then I could get up in the morning and go to school and take that test and all that stuff. So it wasn't always hard, but I feel good about the background. I think if I didn't have that background, it wouldn't teach me how to be, how to focus on things and be thankful for everything that I have today. So he said, how did I feel at the time when I was younger going through all this? And there was times, as I explained earlier, when we didn't have papers and it was hard wanting to go to a friend's house and my mom telling me, you can't go to the friend's house because the immigration might be down the street. Or if you wanted to go on a field trip, and sometimes they would ask for identification and they'd ask for a social security number. I didn't have a social security number until I was 14 and a half. And so a lot of times it was hard. Sometimes you were reminded of your obstacles. And I think that made me tough, though. That made me tough that, I can't overcome something that it's just an obstacle and there's ways around it. And that's what it's taught me. So he said, what are some solutions for immigration? And I think it's important for all our politicians to know that look at the people that are here, and everybody has a human right to be here, and we can't isolate certain people, and also improve the immigration process. We talked about pathway to citizenship, and that's really important. Pathway to citizenship, a process that you don't have to wait 10, 15 years. So I think that's what I would say.
What would you comment on people that have the same experience?
That was a good question, and so I would want to mentor people on is getting your education, and what they say, paying it forward. I think being a mentor to someone else, maybe younger than you, and letting them know not to give up, because sometimes it is hard. There's times where it's hard, especially with stuff with family or school, but don't give up and get your education. That's really, really, really important.
Let's give a huge round of applause for Marisa Beruman.